watching the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Steve Grover down here in beautiful Austin, Texas. The weather is just gorgeous. It's 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're here for a conference, but I took some time to do another episode for this month of September for the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast, so at least Winston and Roosevelt, my two Bulldogs, know I'm not having fun down here, and I'm actually working. I've got a pleasure today of having a really good guest today, David Craig. How are you doing, Dave?
Thanks, Steve. I'm doing great now. I'm on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And we're in beautiful Austin, Texas. It's sunny.
Yeah, well, I thought when I agreed to be on it, though, there'd be two Bulldogs.
Well, they're at home sleeping.
I'll tell you.
TSA wouldn't let the Bulldogs on the plane, so they had to go back home. But thank you so much for being on my podcast. We've known each other for some time. Obviously, you're a partner at Craig Kelly Thoughtless in Indianapolis, Indiana. And, nice to see you again. So tell a little bit about yourself, like where are you from? How did you get in law and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I grew up in Indiana. Our law firm's headquartered there. Grew up out in a small county. My dad was a psychologist at a local juvenile facility. So I thought I was going to be a psychologist.
Okay.
And then I took classes, and I didn't do that well in them, so I decided maybe I'll be a business major instead.
Okay.
So, but I always my dad, I saw him help a lot of people, including inmates, but then also his own clients, and I always liked that. Thought maybe I'd go into politics, because I thought that was a way to help people. And then I actually got involved in politics and realized I could probably not help that many people doing that because I wasn't independently wealthy.
Okay.
And so I decided, well, maybe the next best thing would be going to law. And so that's kind of why I went into law.
Okay. Was there anything that inspired you to go to law? Anybody you met or something like that?
One of the most influential people in the community I lived in was a local lawyer. And always, and I was active politically, and everybody always turned to him for everything. Like, if they had problems, questions, concerns, he was the go-to person.
Okay.
And so I always looked up to him, and so I thought, it'd be kind of cool to do that and be respected in the community, be able to help people in the community, and so that's kind of what I looked up to.
And then, so you went to law school, graduated law school, and do you remember your first job as a lawyer?
Yeah, so I went to a firm that was mainly a business firm that needed a litigator, and I had clerked. I clerked all the way through law school for law firms, and I always did in the litigation area. So they needed somebody to do litigation, so I jumped in and started doing litigation.
So were you scared to become a litigator?
I was excited, but I'm always scared. Hell, to this day, I'm still scared to walk into the courtroom because you don't want to let people down.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing that drives you. I mean, I can tell you my losses easier than I can tell you my victories because it just haunts you. I mean, I've driven from a courthouse in tears.
Oh, really?
Just because it's so devastating to your clients.
Yeah.
And so, so you love the highs, but the lows are really low. Now, thank goodness I haven't lost much.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, I'm nervous for the results. Not because I don't really care what people think of me personally. I don't really care about but I care about your clients, which I think is why I have to do personal injury.
Yeah, so I find that an interesting comment because they say that people in the world have three fears. Number one, paying taxes. You agree with that. I hate paying taxes, okay? Number two is dying. We're all scared to die. We don't really think about it. And third is public speaking. So that public speaking doesn't scare you at all.
It doesn't bother. It doesn't scare me because I'm not so worried about what people think.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about what am I doing, how am I doing it, and I think when I was younger, I was probably worried about losing because of my reputation, because you didn't have a reputation.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of like, okay, guys, if I lose a bunch, then what? And so the funny thing was I took bad cases and tried them.
Yeah.
And so if you lost a bad case, everybody thought, well, you're crazy enough to try that case. Yeah. When you won it, though, people really respected you because they're like, holy cow, this person can win that case.
Yeah.
And so I would advise young lawyers, try the bad cases because those are the ones easiest to make a good reputation on, and there's not much downside to losing them.
Yeah.
And so I tried as many cases as I could try, just getting in the courtrooms. And I tried a lot of bad cases that we were fortunate enough to have won.
So when you talk about bad cases, were there any issues about the client credibility issues or liability issues, or just it wasn't a good case in general?
Sometimes both.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, I remember one case that a lawyer, and I would get cases that other lawyers would have,
Mm-hmm.
and they would say, hey, we can't settle it, and we
Yeah.
can't continue it anymore, Dave. Will
Yeah.
you try it? I'm like,
Okay.
I like to try cases, so I'll go try it.
Okay.
And so those were typically not always good cases. I had one that a guy had, he was speeding on a racing motorcycle,
Yeah.
and passed in an area that he wasn't allowed to pass in, hit a tractor, and then he didn't go to the doctor. And then 6 months later, a lawyer sent him to a chiropractor.
Yeah.
He went to the chiropractor, ran up $6,000 bills, and of course, the insurance company said, no, we're not going to pay that case. And the guy's speeding.
Yeah.
He's on a racing motorcycle.
Yeah.
He's got chiropractor bills, but they weren't incurred until 6 months after the wreck, and the lawyer referred him.
Yeah, yeah.
And so those are the cases I got, I would start off my career trying that case.
Okay.
And I won it, and won it big. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, shoot, that guy he can win cases.
Okay.
And so that was and so you don't have very little to lose, because
Mm-hmm.
when they offer you nothing,
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to lose? And so why not
Exactly.
go try that case, and why not have fun with a case like
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
And
Okay.
so that's kind of how I started my career.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you start winning tough cases, people keep giving you tough cases.
Yeah.
And I remember another one. I had a lawyer say, "Hey, I got a trial in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Would you come try the case?" I'm like, "I really prefer to work my cases up, do my own."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "I'm in a pinch today. I can't try it. I need you to try it."
Okay.
And so I said, "Sure." He said, "I want to sit with you, but I don't want to do anything."
Okay.
And I said, "Okay." That's
So the
fine.
second chair just taking notes?
Just taking notes.
Okay.
And so that was another one where it was the guy calls his chiropractor at the scene and says, "You're not gonna believe that I was in another wreck, and the defendant hears all that, and there's no dent, no damage to the bumper."
yeah.
And so those are tough, but again, I won that one big.
Yeah.
And then what happened was that lawyer referred every case to me after that.
Okay.
And airplane crashes, semi crashes, every case he had. And so what I found was that I would go around and try cases in small counties, and as you did that, if you were successful, you developed referrals from all the lawyers in that county.
Yeah.
And you treated people right and treated people
Yeah.
decent.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of developed a trial practice over the years.
So it's very interesting you say, okay, like a lot of people, like a lot of lawyers I know in Canada, number one, they're scared to go to court, public speaking, okay? Number two, they have a fear of failure. And, your attitude is I don't want to let my client down.
Right.
So obviously, to go in the courtroom, there's a possibility you could probably lose the case. Would you agree with that?
There's a possibility you can lose the case.
Yeah.
Not
So
probably will.
you don't have a fear of failure in life, do you?
I don't. I feel like that's just a risk that we have to take.
Yeah.
And I work extraordinarily hard. I don't think anybody will outwork me or my
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
And so we will prepare.
Yeah.
And I'll know that if we lose the case,
Yeah.
then we've prepared for it. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not a big believer in that. If I lose a case, it's somebody else's fault or
Yeah.
it's my fault. My
Yeah,
job
yeah,
was. I
yeah.
had one job. My job
Yeah.
was to win.
Yeah.
And I failed.
Yeah.
And so again, I haven't done that very often, but the reality is that I learn something from every failure.
Yeah.
And even when I win, I go back and try to dissect it and say, what could I have done better?
Yeah.
And so it's a battle. It's constantly learning and
Yeah.
getting better. I'm a better lawyer today than I was 40 years ago when I
Oh, yeah.
started.
Yeah.
And I hope to God I'm a better lawyer next year than I am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Oh, so you're always constantly improving yourself every year.
And that's why why the failure doesn't scare me so much.
Yeah.
It's because it's part of the process.
Yeah.
I don't know any great trial lawyer who didn't lose.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
well,
unless
Jerry
you're-
Spence claims he never lost.
I think he may have lost one, but he doesn't. He didn't lose many. But I also think that there are some that are better than others. But the other thing is that some lawyers pick and choose the cases they try.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so but I feel like if you really want to learn,
Yeah.
try some tough cases.
Yeah.
And then as you build, you start building more confidence.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, things change. I mean, in the United States, we have a jury system, and
Yeah.
jurors change. Their attitudes change. And so
Yeah.
the way I try cases today isn't the same way I tried them 10, 20 years ago.
Okay.
I wouldn't be successful that way.
Exactly.
But if you're not trying cases, you don't know that.
Exactly. So you start out in the business law firm, and eventually you go into personal injury. And I know you through the ATAA, which is a well-respected organization. You do a lot of trucking cases. How did you get in? Like, obviously, you got a lot of referrals on, like the motorcycle case. But how did you end up going 100% into personal injury?
Yeah. So what happened was in the business firm that I was in, I was handling litigation, and I was doing billable litigation. And the better I got, the tougher the cases I got, the more
Yeah.
money we made.
Yeah.
But I didn't like that system because it was, no matter how good you were, no matter how efficient you were, these people paid you for your time.
Yeah.
You could lose and still make millions of dollars
Yeah.
on a huge case.
Yeah.
And so I really disliked that. Plus, I was suing people that my other attorneys in the firm wanted to have as clients. And so I was suing corporations and
Yeah.
stuff. And so eventually looked at it and said, no, I need to get out and just do personal injury.
Okay.
And so I went to work for another lawyer who needed somebody to try cases. And so I just, hey, I'll just run around the country or run around the state trying cases for him. And that's what I
Okay.
did. So
And then how long? And then that was another law firm you worked for. How long did you stay with that law firm?
about 4.5 years, and then I started this firm.
Okay.
So this firm is 26 years old. The firm I'm with now,
Yeah.
it's just just turned 26.
So I mean, I've been through that point where I had to go on my own, and honestly, I was so scared. Like I didn't even know if I could afford a garbage can for the boardroom. Like it's scared. So when you went on your own, what was that feeling to go out on your own?
For me, it was not. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I know.
I know, and so it's really weird. And my
Yeah.
wife,
Yeah.
thank God for my wife, because my wife I met when she was 15 and I was 16 in high school. So we've been together ever since. But she's the reasonable and rational one.
Okay.
For me, I just don't care. I've been poor and I've had
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
and I've never been unhappy.
Yeah.
You know, and so the money doesn't define me. It's making a difference, but defines me. And I like doing what I love practicing law. I love helping people. And so my partners, I brought them together. I said, look, we're going to start a new firm. You're
Okay.
welcome to come with me.
Yeah.
But we may not get paid for a whole year. Can you live a whole year, literally? Not coming, not saying, hey, I need this, I need that.
Yeah.
I said, you just got to be able to do it. And if you can't do it, 'cause
Yeah.
we don't have any, we're starting with no clients.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and it didn't even phase. Now, my wife, I swear my wife said, this is it. Last chance.
Yeah.
Don't do this again.
Yeah, okay.
She says she didn't say that. But,
Yeah.
but the reality is that for some people, I think stuff like that matters. And probably with everybody around me, that matters, all my partners. For me, which is good because I probably would risk it all too many times.
Yeah.
So I need other people around me that won't.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't phase me to look.
Yeah.
I mean, I like,
Yeah.
like I said, I've had money, not had money.
Yeah.
I like having money because it's easier. But the reality is, that's not what defines
Yeah,
me.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can have a bunch of money in the bank, and you could have like a Ferrari, but that's not satisfying because they're all material things.
Right.
At the end of the day, you got to be at peace with yourself and be happy with what you're doing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I see a lot of miserable lawyers.
Yeah, I know.
And
Oh,
I see
yeah.
a lot of miserable rich people.
Yeah, I know.
You know, the
Yeah.
reality is that, my goal is to make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy. I mean, you're never there. I'm never hitting that goal because tomorrow I can make a difference in somebody's life.
Exactly.
So why not do it? And so I'm excited to get up every morning. If it was, I want to make this amount of money. Well, then what do you do when you hit it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make this much money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just meaningless. My family is my son's a lawyer in my office, my daughter's a lawyer in my office,
Okay.
and my youngest son is a professional videographer in my office, and
Yeah.
my wife runs my practice.
Okay.
And so family and friends are more important to me than how much money we make.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I when you grow up, my dad told me this and this and that. You never listen to your parents. I can beat you, and I finally bought a car that I always wanted, but then I realized the next day I still have to pay for this car. Like my life didn't change. You agree with that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I think it is nice to have.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, but I think that there's so much more important things. I mean,
Yeah.
every year, my entire family, kids, dogs,
Mm-hmm.
we all go and spend a week together in the same house up in Michigan.
Okay.
Just those are more important to me. And so
Yeah.
it takes money to do those things.
Yeah.
But that's more important to me than the Ferrari or
Or the steak dinner with Dom Perignon. Eh?
Yeah, no.
I don't even like Dom Perignon.
Yeah.
It's overrated.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't know the difference if you gave it to me than
Exactly.
something else.
So you've grown your practice, and I've seen you at many seminars. How many attorneys do you have now in your firm?
We have 10 attorneys, and so
Okay.
and all of them were law clerks of mine. I think with the exception of one,
Okay.
were either law clerks or one was a legal intern.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've known them all when they went through law school. They worked for me, and even my founding partner Scott Follis, he was a law clerk of mine. 30 years ago. So,
Okay.
It's all a close-knit group
Yeah.
of people that, we've
Yeah.
all grown together. And even my paralegals have been with me for a long time.
So I run my own firm,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have any partners. I mean, I just, what do you, like when you're looking for an attorney to join your firm, is there certain specific quality or characteristic you're looking for that
Yeah.
would fit your firm? Does that
Yeah,
make
I mean, I
sense?
think you look to see people who will complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the guy you would want writing a brief.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine talking to people. I'm comfortable in doing jury selection and all
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that. I'm pretty good at strategy.
Yeah.
But I'm not a guy that knows the law, can
Yeah.
cite cases off
Yeah.
the top of their head.
Yeah.
My partner, Scott Follis, he knows the law. I mean, he
Yeah.
handles a lot of amicus briefs,
Okay.
appellate work. Sharp, he's a great second chair trial. He hands me a trial brief. He's got a lot of respect between the judges. And so you look and say, okay, who do I have as a team? And then you try to find people that complement. I don't believe any one lawyer is good at everything.
No,
And
yeah.
so having one lawyer over 100 files, to me, is silly because that means that one lawyer has to be good at everything, and they're not.
Yeah.
So we kind of specialize within a firm. We only do personal injury, but we say, okay, who can do this? Who can do that? Who's good at depositions? Who's not?
Yeah.
Who's good at written discovery, following up?
Yeah.
And so I looked and see, well, what skill set does somebody have? Does that skill set complement our team? And then by working with them as a law clerk, I get to see what their work ethic is. I get to see what their personality is. I get to see how they treat my staff. Because if you treat my staff bad, I mean, as a law clerk, you're the lowest person until you're going out and getting donuts when they ask you to
Yeah.
or whatever. And I've had law clerks who think that's beneath them.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to fit in my firm.
Yeah.
I mean, our firm, we're a team, and
Yeah.
so a given day, my receptionist may be the most important person in my
Oh, yeah.
office.
Yeah.
On another day, the paralegal is. One day, maybe I am.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reality is, we all are.
Yeah.
And so we treat each other very well.
Okay.
And that's unacceptable to me for anybody who won't.
Yeah.
And so if a lawyer has, I don't care how talented they are.
Yeah.
I've fired paralegals who made me a lot of money who
Yeah.
just didn't treat my other paralegals good.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so. And then also the great thing about law clerks is you get to see who their significant other is because they're in law school. And so if somebody is not not devoted and doesn't understand the significance of the practice, what it's like, how much time is involved, then you know that going into it, and that
Yeah.
may not be a good attorney for your office.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, you're looking for a lawyer that doesn't have a big ego, because lawyers are notorious for having egos like doctors. You agree with that?
Yeah,
And-
some are.
Yeah, and then getting along with your culture.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the culture at Craig Kelly Faultless?
Yeah, Craig Kelly and Follis were, we were very client-centered.
Okay.
And is extraordinarily important. I mean, I actually have a guy with a psychology degree that does my intakes. I have a social worker who just deals with the clients and meets with them and helps them. Neither one of them are income-producing positions necessarily,
Yeah.
but yet they are centered on helping clients
Yeah.
through tough times.
Okay.
And so my paralegals, I send them out to they're here today at this conference. Some of them are. I send them, all of them, to trial, Lanier, the different conferences around the
Yeah,
country.
yeah.
So I want people who care, who want to continue to improve.
Yeah.
We have book clubs. We're reading 2 books right now.
Yeah.
So I want people who are interested in challenging themselves to
Yeah.
be the best, employee, best worker they can be. And so our culture, we have a lot of fun, but yet we don't dress up. We have dogs in the office. We have somebody who cooks breakfast every Monday. I have
Okay.
somebody who cooks lunch every Thursday.
Okay.
And so it's just a really, it's a place. We had a kids club the other day,
Yeah.
where all my employees either brought kids or grandkids. I had 26 kids in my office,
Okay.
and we had just a kids club where
Okay.
they were doing trucks. So we had bought them all trucks and stuff.
Okay, that's
and,
cool.
and so we do, it's just a lot of fun stuff together. So we're really a tight knit group of people who all care, are very passionate about the how we take care of our clients.
Yeah. And just out of interest, I get the impression you have a passion in what you're doing. You like, the business side of law. But, we all have bad days. You would agree with that, correct?
Everybody has a bad day.
So how do you get through a bad day? Like, it goes up and down. Like, one day, you could come and, we just sold this great case. And all of a sudden you got a client screaming at you. Or you got another lawyer just being being very difficult at deposition. How do you get through the bad stuff and the good stuff at the same time?
I think I had an advantage because my dad was a psychologist. So,
Okay.
I mean, I think growing up as a psychologist, there's some good things and there's some
Yeah.
bad things.
Yeah.
You're sitting around the dinner table and you say, "Oh, I had this dream last night." He goes, "Tell me more about it." And then you're like, "Oh, whoops."
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, he taught me the things that were important.
Yeah.
And bad days they come and go. You're going to
Yeah.
have them. Nobody promises you a great life
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
perfect life.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
for me, I take it. I say, okay, well, that was it. And I move on.
Okay.
And I think I'm very grateful for everything I had. Honestly, 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. The doctor said, we can't promise you're going to survive. You may have to, we're going to have to do surgery, emergency surgery. I was in the hospital 3 weeks. I was running the law firm out of my hospital. I had my CFO coming up. I had meetings going on. And I thought, okay, I've lived a really good life. Nobody wants to die.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, man, I'm really fortunate for what I have.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, if today's the day,
Yeah.
it's the day.
Yeah.
That's okay. I've lived my life in a certain way. And so I don't have too many bad days
Yeah.
for that reason. The bad stuff doesn't sit with me.
Yeah.
And some people, there's nothing wrong with it if it does. But for me, my bad days aren't too bad, and they
Yeah.
don't last very long.
So it's quite interesting because, I was born in Canada and I went to school in the U.S. and I've traveled the world. And, unfortunately, I've seen it in society, especially the Western society. I don't know if you agree with me. Like, I've got this cup and it's got water in it. Most people would look at that's half empty. No, look at the cup as half full. So you look at the positive. Do you think that's a big problem in society with Canada and America, the Western culture, where they would probably focus on the negative first and not look at, this cup is half full, not half empty. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I think my wife is very much my partners. They would look at things differently than I do.
Yeah.
And my wife sometimes will say, "Hey, just tell me it's bad."
Yeah. Okay.
It's a bad
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
No, it's bad, but it's not. It's just it is what we make it, right? I mean, so we can turn it, and we want to continue to blow up bad things and
Yeah.
talk about them every day.
Yeah.
Then it gets worse. But my attitude is more, hey, let's just make what it is what it is. I can't change it.
Yeah.
So let's just work and move forward. I don't dwell on it. But I do
Yeah.
agree. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people out there that are glass half empty. I'm definitely a glass half full person.
Well, and just thinking that, like, I grew up and my dad would come home. He was a surgeon, and he'd come home from work, and him and I would watch CBS News with Dan Rather. Remember him? Walter Cronkite
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
That's how old I am.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and then
yeah, we're old.
Dan Rather took over. But all you hear about in the news is bad things.
Yeah.
They don't say, hey, this kid just won. He was the #1 spelling bee in the country. I mean, well, what's going over in Gaza? And then these people died in Russia. I mean, do you think there's a persona in our Western society from, when you look at the news, it's all bad news. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's I think there's good stuff if you find it and look for it.
Yeah.
I think if you spend a lot of time on it, it is scary,
Yeah.
especially with the social media and the
Yeah.
Facebook and all this
Yeah.
stuff. It's just you worry about kids today.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's any different. I mean, the people who look for the bad find the bad.
Yeah.
The people who look for the good find
Yeah.
the good.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing that I instilled with my kids was to look for the good.
Yeah.
And no matter what's going on in society, no matter what's going on, just you control the things you control on.
Yeah, yeah.
And just work hard and be
Yeah.
positive about it.
Yeah.
So.
Because it's interesting. My dad, he was a doctor, and they didn't. He just found psychiatry very interesting, even though he was a surgeon. And he told me, which I always stuck with me, people would rather see you fail than be successful. What do you think of that idea?
I think there are people out there who like to watch people fall.
Yeah.
And some people, even in our business, look at each other as competitors.
Oh, yeah.
And I look at it as an abundance. There's plenty of cases.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't worry about somebody competing against me. I've had beers with people, my competitors. Hey, Dave, can I have a beer with you and pick your brain? Absolutely. I don't care.
Okay.
I'm fine having a
Yeah,
beer
yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
I don't have any secrets.
Yeah.
I'm one open book because there's enough business to go around. And it's just it's more of a frustrating way to live life,
Yeah.
to worry about, are you going to take my cases
Yeah.
or not? I just
Yeah.
worry about, how do I do better this year versus last year, this month versus next month? And I focus on that and myself, not
Yeah.
other people.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes sense. My dad always would tell me, like, focus on what's your plate, not on the next person beside you eating. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
you can't focus on what you have if you're too busy looking at other stuff, and then all of a sudden you come back and all your stuff is gone because you weren't focusing on your own business or life or even family. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, in the same way with the trial work, if you tried a case and you had a terrible defense lawyer,
Yeah.
and it was a great case and you won it,
Yeah.
you'd say, okay, but so what?
Yeah.
I mean, so how about a bat? What if you have a really great trial lawyer against you?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to measure it by your own performance, not on your victories.
Yeah.
Your victories are great, but your losses are horrible.
Yeah.
But the reality is, how did you perform?
Yeah.
How do you continue to perform better the next time? What do you learn from it? And I think that's the same way with businesses. What can we do differently? How can we be a better, do a better service to our clients? How do we work on making things better for them through really tough times?
So you're obviously a lawyer plus you're an entrepreneur and a businessman. But I get the impression you're always trying to make yourself better so that you can serve your clients better. Obviously, be part of the community in Indiana. And would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's extraordinarily important. It's just, I think, again, if you want to be successful and you want to sleep at night,
Yeah.
and you want to do things that are constantly improving and getting better, and then, I mean, nothing. I've had clients that I've lost who hugged me
Yeah.
with tears in their eyes
Yeah.
and said, "Thanks for fighting for me."
Yeah.
5 other lawyers turned my case
Yeah,
down. Thank you
yeah,
for fighting for
yeah.
me. I've had lawyers or clients that I've won who you make a huge difference. And I mean, so what other jobs are there where you have people who are that appreciative that they'll hug you and cry with tears in their eyes,
Yeah.
thanking you? Or when we change a policy, I had a lady, we changed the trucking policy and made a trucking company adopt a policy on their sleep apnea and sleep deprivation, and she changed it, and everyone was safer on the roadways because this lady did it. It was confidential which
Yeah.
company it was, but the reality was that lady made a difference in all of our lives. Anybody that was on the highway in the United States, and it's like, man, that's pretty cool. That's a neat thing, and it wasn't money. We got money, but that wasn't what she was fighting over. They would have
Yeah.
paid us a lot more money if we
Yeah.
would have said, no, we don't have to change your policies.
Yeah. Okay.
But we said no. She said, damn it, we want to change the policy. I don't want anybody else to go through what my family went through.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so, I think that's part of what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it fun and enjoyable
Yeah.
to make a difference.
Yeah, so obviously, like you're looking at trucking cases. We're at a big trucking conference. You want to make the roads safe for everybody, including your family. You want to keep companies accountable, make sure that they have the hours of operation for their drivers, make sure they're not cutting corners. And so it's not about just having the victory and getting your client money, but you also want to make sure that society in general is better from a case. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And not only that, I want to educate people. I mean, when you go through driver's ed in the United States, they don't spend a lot of time about what's the dangers about trucks, being
Yeah.
around trucks.
Yeah.
What's the stopping distance?
Yeah.
When you pull in front of one,
Yeah.
and you're in a tight, tough area, construction zones.
Yeah.
And so we want to educate people. We want to tell people, here's what you need to watch out for. They can't just stop on a dime.
Yeah.
I mean, most truckers are really good, honest, hardworking people.
Yeah.
The bad are getting worse.
Yeah.
But the good ones are still out there. But they still can. Their vehicles. We got 40 tons. That's a lot. And
Yeah.
so our firm, we spend time educating the public on
Yeah.
safety, on how to drive around trucks.
Okay.
We educate lawyers. I spoke at this conference. We work on, and then as part of cases, we try to change policies whenever we get a chance to.
Okay.
And we obviously want to get recoveries for our clients. And the more money you get, the more I think businesses will change
Yeah.
how they do things.
Okay. So your firm's based out of Indianapolis. Do you have like offices throughout Indiana?
I have offices throughout Indiana. I also have lawyers licensed in Kentucky, Illinois, Tennessee, Ohio, and Missouri, and Indiana. And I have an office in St. Louis and offices throughout Indiana.
So can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
So you have so many lawyers licensed in other jurisdictions. What's March Madness like in your office?
It's interesting.
Because you got Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio State.
Yeah, all of them. And there's good rivalries.
Yeah.
In football season, we hear a lot of that. People
Okay.
wear their jerseys
Yeah.
at the office. We do a Zoom
Okay.
every morning,
Yeah.
and so a Zoom of the whole office, and so people even like, Colts, we have a Denver, Colorado fan, and
Okay.
and so yeah, we got people from all over now.
Okay. And obviously, so your whole firm does personal injury. Is that you don't
Yep.
do any defense work? You don't represent big corporations at all?
Correct.
And how is your practice broken up? Is there auto, trucking, slip and falls, or just certain areas you do?
Yeah, so we don't do medical malpractice,
Okay.
and we do very little product liability.
Mm-hmm.
We do some, but it's mainly trucking is a big chunk of our practice, and then any other type of personal premise cases.
Yeah, you do premise liability.
Premise liability,
Yeah.
and we just wrapped one up. Premise liability cases are interesting, and so they can be challenging, but they can also be rewarding.
Yeah.
And car accidents,
Yeah.
our attorneys, I think our firm was built on trying cases, and if you try cases, insurance companies treat you fairly.
Yeah.
And so I wanted all of our lawyers to be able to try cases. You don't get to try that many trucking cases,
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
frankly.
yeah.
And in the United States, less than 3% of the cases, actually 3 to 5% go
Yeah.
to trial.
Yeah.
And so you don't get that many. So you've got to have some other cases. And if you want your firm to continue to succeed, then you want your younger lawyers to be better than you are.
Okay.
And so you want them to try cases. You want to give them
Okay.
experience. And so we do all the other types of personal
Do
injury.
you dog bite cases?
We do dog bite cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does your dog think of
Yeah,
that?
Now, my dog, I can't take those because my dog doesn't like it.
I got 2 bulldogs and say, Dad, get all the dog bite cases because we don't like those nasty doggies. Keep them accountable.
Yeah, no, we haven't. We actually, my son took a case up on appeal and
Yeah.
created law for dog bite cases. But
Yeah.
no, we do a little bit of everything.
Okay, because
so-
Winston, I got 2 bulldogs at home. And that's what this. It's the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast. Winston and Ruzi, and they say, Dad, you got to keep those doggies accountable. Like you keep those trucking companies accountable. You got to get those bad dogs off the parks.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a golden doodle who comes to work pretty regularly. She's about
Yeah.
as nice as can be.
Yeah.
But she's gentle, but boy, she does bark sometimes a lot.
Yeah.
She protects me all
Okay.
the time.
So is a lot of your practice focusing on trucking cases when you personally only handle, or you do those other areas like premise liability and auto?
Yeah, so my partner and I, Scott Follis and I, are both board certified in truck accident law. And so the 2 of us and Chris Berry
Yeah.
was my other partners. And the
Yeah.
3 of us handle most of the trucking cases.
Okay.
But the rest of them we're involving so they can learn trucking.
Yeah.
And so, and develop it. And then I'm involved in strategy on every case,
Yeah.
especially if it's going to go to trial.
Yeah.
And so I don't care what case it is, what size it is. I find myself always volunteering. I say, well, somebody will say, well, this is a horrible case. I say, well, I'll try it.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
like, damn, I
Yeah.
think you got other stuff to do.
Exactly.
But it's like, so we're involved. We work as a team.
Yeah.
So that there'll be 2 to 3 lawyers on every case.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, depending on what skill set they have, they do it. So, but I'm usually involved in the strategy on almost every case.
Okay, and ATA's been around for 10 years now, and I think I've attended every conference. I've always seen you and your partner here. So there's this crazy Canadian lawyer. What's he doing down in the U.S.? Because I'm learning stuff, and I always find interesting stuff. I learned from Joe. I even sat in your talk this morning, very good talk about talking to truck drivers. I learned stuff again. But I keep on hearing the theme ever since I started going to the trucking case. And can you explain it to my viewers? A trucking case is not the same as a car accident claim. Why is that theory out there?
Yeah, I think a truck case is a lot more complicated than your typical car crash.
Okay.
Car crash, you have you have the car, and you have an insurance company. In a trucking company, typically you have the truck driver who worked for a trucking company, maybe, may have loaded his truck, may not have. You may have a shipper involved. You may have a logistic company involved. You have a variety of different people who are involved in the process. Plus, it's a lot more sophisticated piece of equipment in some respects. And the drivers are professional drivers. They all have CDLs.
Yeah.
And so I think in order to do trucking, you have to know what the Federal Motor Carrier Safety regulations are.
Yeah.
You have to know what the CDL manual says. You have to know what the industry standards are. You've got to know, how it affects, like, for example, when you're driving a car in the United States, you have certain duty of reasonable care in snow or bad weather. Well, a truck driver, though, has a duty to use extreme caution. You, as a car driver, doesn't have that burden of extreme caution.
Yeah.
A truck driver, under the CDL manual, says you have to decrease your speed by 50% if you're driving on compact snow. You have to drive 30%, decrease your speed by 30% on wet pavement. As a car driver, you don't have those duties. So
Yeah.
there's a whole different set of rules that apply that a normal personal injury lawyer who doesn't do trucking has no idea what they are. Now, you can look them up and find them,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, if you do trucking and you're board certified in truck accident law, you do a lot of truck accident law, then you're going to know those things. You're going to know where to look. You know what
Yeah.
experts to hire.
Yeah.
I all the time people call me and say, well, what experts do you need?
Yeah.
And so when a front end, when a truck wreck happens, then I need to hire somebody to download the ECM, the electronic control module.
Yeah.
You don't have that. Sometimes you have it in a car crash, but not all the time.
Yeah.
And so who do you hire? Well, there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Yeah.
If it's a Volvo, then you have to hire special people. That's proprietary software, so you have to hire somebody else.
Yeah.
And so knowing who to hire, all those type of things. And then also, so you have to have the experience, the knowledge. You need the experience to do trucking. In addition to that, you have to have the resources.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot more expensive to handle a truck case than it is a car crash case, typically.
Okay.
And so if you don't have the resources, then you're not going to probably do a very good job. You may hesitate to hire the experts, and you may say, well, I'll just wait a little bit. Let's see how that plays out. I get cases referred to me by other attorneys who unfortunately have sat on them for a year or so and done nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes it's too late.
Yeah.
So I think truck accident attorneys look at things differently. They look at it and say, who's responsible?
Yeah.
And what different, in the United States, you got $750,000 minimum insurance. Most companies have at least $1 million, but that's not enough to replace the life of somebody or a
yeah.
catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
And so we're looking for, okay, where do we find the money
Yeah.
to take care of our clients?
Yeah.
And where up the food chain, who else can be responsible? If you don't do this day in and day out, I don't know that you know that.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so I know in the U.S. you got limits issues. Like in the state of Indiana, what's the minimum auto insurance you have to carry in Indiana on a car now?
minimum in Indiana is $25,000 per person.
That's it, eh?
Yeah.
That's not a lot of money.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And then the minimum my understanding for a trucker is about $750. Would you
Right.
agree with that? And you say most companies have $1 million.
Right.
So you get a catastrophic claim. You're looking at like this person's messed up, quadriplegic, was a surgeon, dentist. I mean, $750 is not going to cut the mustard. Where do you go from there to find, like they call it peeling the onion back to find more coverage or insurance? Where do you go from there other than looking at just the trucking companies?
So it depends. I mean,
Yeah.
every case is different, but I had one, for example, where unfortunately my client was texting and he ran into the back of a semi that was stopped on the highway
Yeah.
because it had lost part of its load. So that truck driver should have never stopped where he did, but somebody actually pulled in front of him and stopped him because they saw their load falling off, and so they thought it was dangerous. And a whole bunch of cars passed without any trouble, but unfortunately my client, because he happened to look down,
Yeah.
he plows in and he dies. And
Okay.
he's married and he's got kids.
Yeah.
And so, and that truck driver and that trucking company only had $1 million worth of coverage.
Okay.
Well, that's not enough money
Yeah.
to take care of these folks. And so then you go to the shipper. So the next question is the shipper. And so I said, okay, that load, why did it fall off? Now, in most states, in the United States, if the driver has the primary responsibility of that load. So once that driver takes it off away from the shipper, the truck driver is responsible, unless there's a latent or hidden defect. Well, in this case, so is there a latent or hidden defect? Again, a personal injury lawyer or a regular lawyer wouldn't necessarily know that. I know that law, and so I'm like, let's find this truck before it's unloaded the rest of the
Okay.
way. Let's send out our preservation of evidence letter.
Yeah.
And then it's sitting at a place, and I'm like, I don't really know how safe it is there. There's no fences, there's no security.
Yeah.
It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So let's put an investigator sitting out there.
Yeah.
And so then I called to find out who the defense is. Say, hey, we're going to do an inspection.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, instead of the time we're supposed to go, my investigator calls me and says, hey, Dave, there's a bunch of equipment showing up. I'm like, what the heck? So I call and say, oh, no. I'm saying, no, there's my guy's sitting there, and there's a bunch of equipment. You're getting ready to unload that truck, aren't you?
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry, it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. So we zipped to the scene, and we videotaped them unloading it, and we find out that the dunnage wasn't fastened properly, and the truck driver would have never known because it was loaded while he was inside doing paperwork.
Yeah.
And so there was no way he would know. And when he drove, that load shifted,
Yeah.
and it caused some of it to fall off. And so if we had not got to the scene, if I hadn't had an investigator, if I hadn't somebody sitting out there watching that load, if I hadn't hired the experts ahead of time, that case would have been $1 million case.
Yeah.
Instead, it was a multi-million-dollar case because the shipper had a lot of coverage.
Okay.
And so you're looking for in a construction zone.
Yeah.
I mean, construction zones, you're always looking to say, okay, is this construction zone safe? Could it have been safer?
Yeah.
Did it contribute? So you're always looking for other parties who may be responsible, the logistics company, whoever.
Yeah. Okay. And I constantly hear, I've sat in these seminars since I was for the last 10 years. You talk about the shipper. Now let's talk about the broker. Is there any liability on the broker in hiring that shipper to do that load?
Yeah, and we have held brokers responsible. We've gotten money out of brokers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, some of these brokers they don't have anything.
They don't have insurance?
They don't have. They have to. They don't have. There's no minimum requirement.
Yeah.
They carry very little, and they're
okay.
making their money off of brokering loads. And so they're taking. Okay, there's a load, and if I can sell it, if I can get it transported from here to here cheaply, I get a cut.
Yeah.
And so the cheaper they can find somebody to haul it from here to here, the better off they are. So who does it the cheapest? The worst companies.
Yeah.
The crap equipment, the bad drivers, the ones that, they'll bid a really low price, so then the broker can make more money.
Yeah.
And so there are some big brokers
Yeah.
that have plenty of insurance.
Okay.
And then there's some that are really bad, that are really kind of fly by night. And you can go on YouTube and see some of the ones in, how to build a broker business.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I mean, they're working out of their houses, their apartments.
Yeah.
And they're just got a board where they're just saying, hey, look, here's these jobs, and they're putting people in
on the.
Yeah,
so how many brokers out there, big companies and small ones in America?
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely see a lot of fly-by-night companies because it's so easy.
Okay.
But fortunately, there's some of the bigger brokerage companies. But then you have to look at the shipper or whoever's shipping the product. Are they using the right logistics company? Are they using the right brokers? Are they checking it all? Can you hold them responsible? Are they controlling? Which a lot of times they are. They're controlling how the load shipped. They're actually monitoring the movement of the trucks, and so there's other ways to find other, the shippers, the supplier of the goods, responsible. So you have to kind of look at all those things, as you know.
Oh yeah, and obviously, other than broker, shipper, the trucking company, any other companies you try to peel back the onion to find more coverage? Because it's all about getting more money for your clients so that they can get back to the life before the crash.
I have. I mean, it depends on the situation. I've had. The doctors who give approve the CDL.
Yeah.
What if the doctor is just a mill and they're just cranking them out and they're putting unhealthy drivers?
Just doing stamps on every.
So what about suing those doctors?
Yeah.
What about the mechanics? So we've had cases where the equipment's not properly maintained, and so but we found out that it just came out of a shop. So what about the people who are fixing the truck and putting it on the roadway?
Yeah.
So you're always looking at every case is different, and you're trying to, if you have a trucking company that has a lot of resources and it's a huge company, has a ton of, then don't complicate the case.
Yeah.
But if you have one that's got $1 million limits and that's not adequate.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had clients that had $500,000 in medical bills with only $1 million policy.
Yeah.
Well, that can't take care of people.
No. Yeah.
So you have to look at every case and do a deep dive on who else can be responsible.
And then, like a typical person out there would say, okay, it's a rear-end crash. Obviously the trucker is at fault. But when you're preparing your case, you obviously you call it an emergency response team that goes out, investigates the scene, looks at the truck, inspects that. The parties that you're looking to depose, would you just want to do just the trucker, or would you want to do the safety officer and the corporate representative too?
Yeah, you would do it all. I mean, so if you send I have a rapid response team that I send out every time, and I don't care if it looks like it's clear liability. I don't care if it looks like it's terrible liability. If the police report's completely against us, I could care less. I want to put my people on the street because I don't know what defense the defendant is going to bring up.
Yeah.
It could be a sudden medical emergency. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so it could be an equipment failure.
Yeah.
So I want my people out there investigating. I want to do the inspections. I want to do the downloads. And I don't look at a case as just, it's clear liability.
Yeah.
I never have. And so I want to look at every case. And then I also, because you're looking for, I don't know what the limits are necessarily.
Yeah.
And so I want to find out, okay, is there other possible defendants? And then when I'm doing the depositions, depending on what kind of case it is, I'll do safety director, I'll do all kinds
So
of
you wouldn't
people.
just question the truck driver and be done?
No,
You'd
absolutely not.
look at the safety director, probably corporate representative, and find out who else is involved in this case.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I was down here like 3 days in Houston doing depositions of all kinds of company employees
Oh,
on
really?
a company and on a wrongful death in Indiana on a truck case. And so, I'll do anybody and everybody's deposition that we think's relevant or that may
Okay.
lead to helpful information.
So obviously doing trucking cases, you have to have experience to do it. You got to have the dedication to do it, and you have to have the resources to take on a trucking case. It's just not as simple auto case as they say.
Right, I
Okay.
agree.
All right. And obviously, I got to ask you about this because, I do like shopping malls. I was a shopping little kid brat. I like to hang. There's a big mall in Calgary called Chinook Center.
Okay.
And I even hang out there now, okay? But the thing that I've seen now is everything's online shopping. And I ordered a new pair of runners for the gym from Nike Canada, and I did it online rather than going to like Foot Locker or another store. I'm not endorsing any stores, okay? But it's the first store that comes to my mind. With this online shopping now, and since COVID, have you seen more trucks on the road because they're shipping so much stuff rather than people going to the mall to buy shoes or a tie? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it's completely changed. And
Yeah.
you see a lot more, not only big trucks,
Yeah.
but then also just to get to your house now, you're seeing smaller trucks, vans.
Yeah.
Someone was delivered the other day. It was just we had a water cooler for my office,
Yeah.
and somebody in a car brought it. And so it was it was from some, I don't know what store it was, but they brought it and delivered it. And so I'm like, what's this person in the car delivering this brand new water
Yeah.
cooler? But yeah, no, and so and you can get stuff the same day you order it,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. But
Yeah.
I think that's not going to change, and so it'll continue.
So when you think trucking case, I'm going to tell you a funny story. Okay, so I started doing trucking cases, but this is before ATA, and there's another program out there. I think I met you. That guy's, I don't know where he is. Okay, well, we won't talk about him. But then I wanted to do a pamphlet about trucking accidents, so I hired a photographer. Said, "Go get me some pictures." So he goes out and he takes pictures of truckers. And I said, listen, dude, see, the Canadians don't understand trucking litigation. They think, and I get this asked all the time, so Steve, you're a trucking lawyer. So how does it you like to work for trucking companies? Like they don't understand.
Hang out at truck stops.
So I have to educate Canadians what trucking cases are all about. So it's funny, he came back with all these photos of a truck and a guy in a truck driving a truck. No, this isn't what I need, dude. I need a truck hitting a car and causing carnage. So trucking cases, it's interesting how you bring up like a car delivered the water cooler to your office, your house. So do trucking cases just involve 18-wheelers, or would it be any commercial vehicle out there?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think so. Certainly, there's definitions of what a commercial motor vehicle is, and but I think sometimes people don't realize it can be a large pickup truck pulling a trailer.
Yeah.
If it has a certain weight, and so it's a variety. And we do commercial, even smaller vehicles, vans.
Yeah.
The question then is just an agency. Who's controlling their movements and what are they doing and all that kind of stuff. So it is different than it was probably when I started practicing, because we've seen the trend in overnight, less than overnight deliveries.
So it's not just big 18-wheelers. It
Correct.
could be a cube van delivering a TV to your house that causes an accident. Obviously, there's going to be a commercial policy on that if it's coming from a big store.
Yeah, and box trucks and like UPS. Their trucks are smaller, and so
Yeah. Okay. And obviously, there's a lot of cases out there. Are there certain cases like you wouldn't take a certain case on, like liability or credibility or something like that? Like you screen your cases, obviously you have an intake department, hey?
Yeah. If it's a large, trucking case, then I'm involved in the screening. But obviously you look at every case, and I'll make a decision based upon the facts of the case. I don't worry too much about liability initially because, unfortunately, a lot of police departments don't do a great job investigating, and a lot of times they're more worried about opening the highway than they are establishing and documenting the evidence.
Yeah.
So I don't really worry about whether the police reports against. I had a a client from the East Coast called me and said her husband got killed driving a delivery van. He ran into the back of a semi, and the police put it was his fault for following too closely. Well, I mean, if you run into the back of something, I guess you are too close to it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the question is, like, why did you run into the back of it?
Exactly.
And it turned out the highway was closed for an accident.
Yeah.
And so traffic was all stopped.
Yeah.
And so this guy plows into the back of it, and the police put it their fault. And she's like, Mr. Craig, my husband is the safest driver. I mean, he just no way. Just no way. And so that's a case that a lot of people may not take
Yeah.
because the police report's against it. There was no witnesses on the police
Yeah.
report.
Yeah.
And we took it, and we ended up, were able to prove ultimately that this guy was sitting there with his lights off, and traffic had already started moving, and he was still in the sleeper berth.
Okay.
And so my client had he didn't see it. There was an unlit area of I-70, and he plowed into the back of it and died. And so police reports don't matter a whole lot to me. Even eyewitness can be screwy sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
testimony, you know?
Yeah.
And so you just have to look at every case. And I kind of like those
Yeah.
because they're a little bit more like rewarding when you
Yeah.
find something. And it wasn't even so much that we got limits for her, but it was just that, honestly, they took a lot of satisfaction out of the fact that it wasn't their fault, their dad or their
Yeah.
husband's fault.
Yeah.
And so that was more rewarding to them than even the compensation.
Well, it was interesting. We had a big case. It was a trucking case, and a judge, there's witnesses, and the judges told me, like, listen, okay, he's credible, but his evidence is not reliable. I mean, that's a big problem with witnesses, isn't it, Rick,
Yeah.
nowadays, hey?
Well, I use the example sometimes. So I used to have Indianapolis 500 tickets, and I had 8 seats. And year after year, we go and sit in the
Yeah.
One year, Ari Lyndike wrecked right in front of us.
Okay.
And so, but it was funny, all of us were saying the accident happened differently. We were sober.
Yeah.
We had drank that much.
Yeah.
And so we're all sitting there.
We're supposed to
and-
We're supposed to drink milk at the Indianapolis 500. No
Afterward.
booze, man.
And so and so, but it was funny that all of us said the wreck happened in a different way because
Yeah.
we all saw bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And then our brain put together what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing was that none of us were exactly right. When we watched
Yeah.
it on the news that night,
Yeah.
none of us were right. And yet we all were eyewitnesses. We all saw it.
Yeah.
And yet we all put it together differently.
Okay. So everyone's perception of what
Yeah.
happens different. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah, and then once it's in their head and once
Yeah.
they say it,
Yeah.
it's hard to get them to change it.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
so it can be helpful to a case, but it also can be a situation where it's not that reliable. So every case is different. You have to go out and look at it and do the work.
And then I was just talking about this big topic coming up. It's all over. It's called AI. So what do you think is going to happen in the trucking industry? You think it's going to be AI trucks going out there eventually?
I mean, AI, they're already using
Artificial intelligence, yeah.
They're already using artificial intelligence in routes and
Yeah.
running the trucking companies.
Yeah.
And you're seeing driverless trucks in where I'm at in Indiana. In Ohio, we have driverless trucks already in Indiana, Ohio. There's dump trucks running loads of gravel and dirt. They have no drivers in them. Down here, you've got them running all over the highways.
Well, we just took an Uber yesterday.
Did you?
Oh, it was
One of the
amazing.
Google, the Way-
yeah,
the-
the Waymore. It was
Waymore,
amazing.
yeah.
I was impressed actually.
And so it's coming.
Yeah.
But it's everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so in your law offices, I mean, you're going to be using AI if you're not already.
Yeah.
We use it in all kinds of different things, and so it's just going to happen, and so we just have to adapt to it.
So you think it's going to churn the trucking industry? Well, first of all, I think a lot of truckers don't agree with AI. It's going to take all their jobs away, correct?
Truckers think that they're going to lose their jobs because
Okay.
of the driverless semis.
Exactly. Now we have hours of regulation. So they go AI. How can you enforce that? Because a computer can just work 24/7. You could drive a truck, artificial intelligence truck from New York to LA without a break or just stopping for gas.
Sure. Well, and you don't need hours of service, right?
Yeah,
because hours of
exactly.
service are designed to keep you
Yeah.
awake and alert.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't really need it if it's a computer driving it.
So you think that's going to be good for the trucking industry and society in general, or there's going to still be accidents, or but obviously there's a lot of jobs going to be lost with truckers,
Yeah.
and the trucking industry is going to turn upside down. Where do you think that's going to happen for society?
Yeah, from my perspective, we survived the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens is that things change.
Yeah.
And so people will do different things. So I don't think some people will be doing the same jobs 5 years from today that they
Yeah.
are doing now.
Yeah.
but there'll be different jobs.
Yeah.
And so it'll the economies and the businesses will change and adapt, and people will change and adapt. And so I think it's just inevitable. And I'm sure there'll be something after AI that'll come along.
But do you think that the roads will get safer out there with artificial intelligence?
That I don't know yet,
Trucks?
because it depends on regulations. I
Yeah.
mean, right now, we really aren't regulating it, and so every state's a little bit different. And
Yeah.
so the question will be, how do we regulate? A lot of states are really eager to get it, and so they're like, come on in,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
so they're like Arizona, Texas, Indiana, Ohio, and so the reality is that it depends on the government. If
Yeah.
the government puts in rules that apply to AI, just
Yeah.
like they did when that apply to truckers,
Yeah.
then I think we'll be okay. If they don't, we could have problems.
So have they figured this out? So a truck is going from Des Moines, Iowa to Spokane, Washington, and it's an AI truck. How do they stop to get gas? Because, no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Has anyone figured that out?
They do. They're programmed to stop.
So they're programmed to stop, so
they're
what
programmed-
happens? But there's nobody to pump the gas.
Yeah, so they must have ways.
Well,
to
there's
do
no
it.
more gas attendants because I remember growing up.
Yeah, they
I mean,
wipe your windows.
Yeah, they wipe the windows. They gas. Funny story. So I was coming back from British Columbia to Alberta, and I stopped at a gas station in a small town in Alberta, and like I was on my motorcycle, and this guy's like, he's approaching me because they still have gas attendants. I thought the guy was going to rob me. It's like, no, leave me. But they still have, in one little town in Alberta, they still have those gas attendants that pump your gas for you.
That's funny.
So it was kind of shocking. Like I thought he was trying to rob me.
My kids wouldn't know what that was.
Exactly. But how are these trucks going to stop to refuel?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that they've already worked that out.
Yeah, maybe they'll have fueling stations and they'll have attendants there pumping the gas for the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right now some of the trucks still have drivers in them. They're just
Yeah.
not behind the wheel.
Yeah.
But there's some now that are running that completely don't have anybody at all.
Okay, all right. And obviously, you enjoy practicing law, and we talked before we got on to the podcast about you enjoy the business and reading a lot of business books and building stuff. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
No,
Is that your
yeah.
hobby, pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, I think my hobby is I love being an entrepreneur. I love having my own business. I love making a difference in my employees' lives.
Yeah.
And so so most of my spare time is spent, if I'm not reading law books,
Yeah.
I'm reading books on
Is there any business books out that you'd recommend I read? Anything that had a lasting impact?
Not off the top of my head. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of them, and I'm reading constantly. So
Yeah.
I can't really think of one that I would recommend off
Yeah.
the top of my head.
Well, you've read Made in America by Sam Walton.
Yeah, I
that was a
read that
good
a long
book.
time ago.
I always remember that book because
Yeah.
the guy was a genius. How he built Walmart, and it's a huge empire now. And it's interesting how he's made it a generational family thing. You've always heard companies, they build up a company and the sun comes up and blows it out of the water and just they go bankrupt. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Yeah.
that book I had a lasting impact. I think Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
that one is one of the ones
Yeah.
that just kind of you go back to.
Yeah.
It's kind of outdated now, but
Yeah.
you have different versions. But it's still it's I think mentally it kind of helps prepare you for
Okay.
success.
But you do enjoy sports because you just mentioned you went to the Indianapolis 500. So can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Why, I've never known the answer, but that winner, he always drinks like a liter, like a quart of milk. What's the tradition behind that?
Well, so if I gave you, I don't know but it's the sponsor.
Okay.
And so if I gave you, $100,000 to drink
Oh,
milk,
okay.
would you drink it?
Yeah, of course.
In your podcast, would I be drinking it if
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
giving
yeah.
$100,000?
So it doesn't have
Sponsorship.
anything to do with Indiana or
No,
anything like
no,
that?
it's a sponsorship.
It's a sponsor.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah. And I know you like the Pacers. Sorry about your Pacers losing in the finals.
Yeah, we had bad injury.
Yeah, but you have the Colts. They look like they're up on the upswing. What do you think their new quarterback?
Yeah, well,
Richardson?
he's out. He's not been playing.
Oh, he's out again?
He's not. He's healthy,
Yeah.
but he didn't get the starting job, and so
Okay.
Jones got the Jones got.
Oh,
the
Daniel
job.
Jones. Yeah, the guy from Duke.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
they got him in, and we're 2-0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean things are on the. I mean, it's the first time we started 2-0 in a long
Oh,
time.
really? Yeah.
so we're
And
excited about
have
it.
you been to a game at Lucas?
Yeah,
Is
sure.
it nice? I've
Yeah.
seen it on Monday Night Football. It's a kind of like a kind of like a
Open.
barn warehouse kind of look with glass on the side. Is it
You
a
know,
nice
the roof
stadium?
opens up. It's a nice stadium.
Yeah?
Pacers have a nice place to play. I mean, so
Okay.
we've got some cool facilities. We
Okay.
don't have a Major League Baseball,
Yeah.
but we have a minor league, and it even has a really neat field. And so we
okay.
have some nice facilities
Yeah.
to play sports in. Now, if we just win some national
Yeah, exactly.
championships, it'd be
So
better.
if you got three big colleges there: Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
you got Purdue, and Notre Dame. Which school do you like prefer?
Well, I have an Indiana. My degree is from Indiana University, so
Okay.
and so my son's is, and my daughter was Ball State.
Okay.
So I cheer for all those.
Yeah.
But probably Indiana University is
The
is
Hoosiers.
the one who I would. Yeah.
So what's the problem with their basketball team? They haven't won anything since
Yeah.
Brian Knight left.
No.
Bobby Knight.
How about their soccer team though?
I don't. I don't see.
The soccer team's okay.
Yeah,
They were
Your-
ranked number
Your
one.
football team's doing pretty
Football
good this
team's
year.
really good. Yeah, yeah.
Purdue's always, Drew Brees went to Purdue. Notre Dame's always. The problem with Notre Dame, I don't think they'll ever win another national championship. That's my view of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They-
But
they're
Ball
not-
State's pretty good. David Letterman went to Ball
He,
State.
he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My.
Is he a friend of the family at all, or no?
No. Don't know David. He was a local news guy.
Yeah, he
Weather
was.
guy here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. You're a great lawyer, a great human being, and I always enjoy talking to you. We've seen each other, and thank you so much for being on the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast. I know Winston and Ruzy are probably chilling at home in their beds, and they wanted to give you this nice Canadian trucker Grover Law Firm hat. Even we're involved in the trucking industry in lawsuits. We totally support truckers because if it wasn't for them, commerce in our countries wouldn't work. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Well,
So on
thank you.
behalf of the boys back home,
Yeah, well, thank
hopefully
you.
enjoy that hat, and
I appreciate it.
we'll see you again around here in Austin. And it's a great city, and it's always great seeing you. Okay.
Well, thanks for the hat, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So everybody, thank you for tuning in from Austin, Texas. Hopefully everyone's good back home in Calgary, and see you soon. And look forward to the next episode of the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.